This episode of the Tin Dog Podcast is dedicated to Peter Herndon for becoming a patron of the Tin Dog Podcast over at patreon.com/tindog. Thank you.
Scanning for audio.
Welcome to a Tin Dog Podcast. Yes, I'm still here, still with my leg up, still just kind of passing time, but that means that I can spend it with you. Oh, great, marvellous and probably attractive listener. We get to spend some quality time. And what are we going to do? We're going to spend some quality time discussing Doctor Who. But which bit first? There's so much to choose from. Yes, I could ramble on about the news. The actual news, not the showrunner leaves and is replaced eventually by some other showrunner who we know can do the job perfectly well. No, not that news. The fact that there's going to be no new Doctor Who until December the 25th. The fact that the BBC tried to get something past us by saying, oh look, they're swapping showrunners, the show's still with us, here's class, something to distract you in the wilderness, yeah. Because let's face it, in the year when we were supposed to have a year off, we still had some specials. This year, nothing but class. Doesn't sound right. Yes, the Doctor will probably appear in episode 1 and probably appear in episode 12 or whatever the last episode is, but there'll be no new Doctor Who till Christmas. Which probably means that next year will probably be Capaldi's last year, doing the Rule of 3. But all of that is news that you've probably already heard, thought about and discarded. There's nothing any of us can do about it. Yes, I'll do a huge handover podcast at some point. Something saying how wonderful that our time with Mr. Moffat's been, and it's a surprise that it hasn't been Mark Gatiss, or any of those things that you know everyone else is saying. I'll do that eventually, but you're sick of hearing it. You've heard it from everyone. You've heard every point of view from every single person out there. So let's ignore that. Let's talk about something else. Let's talk about Legends of Ashildr. Now, I had a review copy of Legends of Ashildr, and I was thumbing my way through it very nicely, admittedly, taking a while, when, unbeknownst to me, I ended up in hospital, and I didn't have the book to hand, and no one in the house could find it, so I gave in, and I bought it for the Kindle so that I could read it on my Samsung. And I finished reading it, and of course it's a lot easier sometimes reading on an e-reader because the print is so much bigger. You can change the background colour, thus rendering dyslexia, well, a little bit better. Have you tried that? You know, that time when you have trouble reading? Try something with a yellow background. It helps enormously for me. So anyway, I was in bed reading the last two of the stories that mark up the Legends of Ashildr. So what is it? Well, it's exactly what it says in the tin. It's 4 stories which are the Legends of Ashildr. Stories from a time after she becomes immortal, right through to, well, just before she meets the Doctor again. There are 4 stories in all, and there are 4 authors. Each story, well, you've got the Arabian Nightmare, the Fortunate Isles, the Triple Knife, and the Ghosts of Bascombe Wood, all written by very different authors. When these were written, I'm not completely sure. Now, it's great that you can get 4 different authors to basically write novellas or extended short stories, put them all together into one hardback book, and you've got an instant hit. Everyone wants to know about the adventures of Lady Me, and that works, so that's what we all wanted. However, having a near-death experience may not be the best thing to experience just before you read a story about the death of Ashildr's children. I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's do this in order. The Arabian Nightmare is one of 2 stories that are told not first person, as in they're not from Ashildr's diaries. They are literally Legends of Ashildr. And The Arabian Nightmare is a very, very interesting piece of storytelling. And admittedly, reading some of the Kindle reviews, it has made me question this. You see, The Arabian Nightmare is a story, not told first person, told about Ishilda, but then she becomes a storyteller, telling the stories of her own adventures. The inaccurate narrator doesn't even have a look in, because everything is points of view filtered and regurgitated and brought back to you, and you've really got to be on your game in order to figure out exactly what's happening. Also, if you're not a fan of the style of the Tales of the Arabian Nights, or any of the, I don't want to use the word memes, don't make me use the word meme, any of that sort of thing, then it may not appeal. Which is a shame, because it's a decent enough story. I mean, let's face it, James Goss has provided us with some cracking Doctor Who stuff in the past. Now, the problem with companion-based stories, and let's face it, she is basically a glorified companion, recurring character, whatever you want to call it, is that when they're alone, they have to step up and become the Doctor. They have to become all-knowing, and they have to become the moral high ground. But that's not going to happen with Ishilda. She's almost an anti-hero. Ishilda is finding her way, and of course the character can alter from story to story because she changes and evolves and becomes practically a new person every few hundred years once all of her memories have updated and changed. So the Arabian Nightmare is a story that has flashes of Sutekh-type things going on in the background. But it also has Sinbad, and it also has many, many other things. Yes, there's 1001 Nights in the Big Finish main range that have echoes of very similar themes, but don't hold that against this. This works. It really does. Similarly, told as a report rather than a first-person narrative is the second, the Fortunate Isles. Now, this is the story where Ishilda has stolen something, sneaks on board a ship, and then mysterious things happen and the ship goes out to sea. Yes, there are alien influences in every single one of these stories in order to make, well, tick enough boxes for us as readers to pay attention. They could quite easily have gone down the full historical route and have us not bat an eyelid. It's as if they went through Ishilda's diaries and went, right, got anything with aliens in? Smashing, we'll have them. And that's what we've got. So perhaps another Ishilda's Legends would have no aliens in it at all. Oh, GNT, you're spinning in your grave. I can see it from here. So that's The Fortunate Isles, written by David Llewellyn. Again, a very nicely crafted story. Which brings us to the first story I read while I was in hospital. The Triple Knife. Yes, Jenny T. Coolgan, or Jenny Coolgan as she is to everyone else, is now established as one of the we. She can pull off some fantastic Doctor Who stuff. I can't wait to hear her 10th Doctor and Donna stories from Big Finish. Her stuff with River Song, extremely good. She is definitely one of us. And she can write fast, she can write accurately, and she can write with emotion. Just enough emotion to push us as listeners and readers over the edge. Yes, I was not in a great emotional state. I'll grant you that. Lying in hospital with a leg in plaster, covered in bruises and scars, thinking, I'm glad I'm alive, and then reading about the death of somebody's 3 children. Well, that's going to kind of put you in a weird place when your own child comes in with their homework. So yeah, probably not the best state of mind to read what is a crackingly good tale. It's set in the time of plague and at the time that you would have seen on the screen. Which brings us to the last and final story, The Ghosts of Branscombe Wood by Justin Richards, set almost immediately before the Doctor arrives, with Ishilda investigating. This has references and flashes back to the earlier stories. Very nicely done, although some of the write-ups do imply that the Doctor appears here, and perhaps I missed it or skipped a page, but I just don't think so. So again, there are some ghosts in the wood. She decides to investigate, and I'm not telling you any more than that. Ideal if you don't have a huge amount of time, or if novels are a bit daunting, because they are to a lot of people. Not for the youngest of readers, not for the oldest, just plain good. Very good. So I'll let you decide for yourself whether you want that one or not, and I wonder if another Ishilda Tales will be purely historical, or is anyone not quite that brave? Perhaps she could meet some different Doctors without even realising who they are, because she might not know about regeneration. Probably does though, I would say. So, with that, I'll bid you farewell, and I'll speak to you very soon, probably about Doctor Who. Oh, I would say so. So until then, be seeing you. That was the Doctor Who Tin Dog Podcast, available on iTunes, YouTube, Twitter, RSS, Vimeo, and across the internet. Doctor Who and its associated properties are all copyright and trademark of the BBC. No infringement is intended. Why not become a supporter by visiting patreon.com/tindog. Contact the show on tin-dog@hotmail.co.uk. The Tin Dog Podcast is a founder member of the Doctor Who Podcast Alliance.